Hey guys, welcome to IPINKIT. My name is Ingrid. I always get asked this question: how did I identify that I have food allergies as well as food intolerances? Surprisingly, I don't have a video talking about it. So I was thinking we can use this time to discuss everything I know about food allergies as well as food intolerances through my experience. I repeat one more time, this is from my experience. By no means this should replace medical advice. I feel like when someone shares about their food allergy journey as well as their food sensitivities journey, it helps others to pinpoint which might be the issues, which fruits or foods or grains or seeds or nuts might be the culprit of your reactions. This, I really hope it helps you, yet you still have to go and ask for medical advice or seek for the right professional that can help you relieve those symptoms and identify the allergies and the sensitivities properly. Now, I feel like we should understand the difference between both. They're completely different even though they happen to share some of the symptoms. When it comes to food allergies, this is going to be a reaction caused by your autoimmune system. Your body is defending itself from the proteins of the foods that you are not receptive to. So for example, if I eat peanuts, which I happen to be anaphylactic to them, my body is going to attack. And those reactions that I experience is a response from my autoimmune system. When it comes to food sensitivities, this is going to be strictly directed to your digestive system. So basically, experiencing some discomfort when eating. That will be bloating, abdominal pain, diarrhea, nausea, all those things that come with your digestive system. All those things that come with your digestive system. Now, when it comes to food allergies, some of those reactions could be swollen lips, swollen gums, swollen eyelids, swollen skin, literally like a rash, dots, bubbles, blisters, nausea, diarrhea, vomit. What else? What else have I experienced? Like your throat literally closing, going into anaphylactic shock. So lots of those very similar symptoms, like, you still experience that digestive discomfort, yet it also shows in your skin that your body is allergic to it. So that might help you identify whether you have an allergy or a sensitivity. The way that I identify mine, let me share a little bit of my story. I think this is a great moment. So, my dad used to love eating peanut butter from the jar. And basically, one day he had it open and I was very curious. I wasn't even a year old. And then my mom tells me that I grab the peanut butter with my hands and I put it all over my skin. Guess what? The little Ingrid, within minutes, rushed to the hospital. That's how my parents discovered that I'm allergic to peanuts and tree nuts. So I've avoided them all my life. I have no idea how they taste, and every time that I've accidentally eat them, it has led to a reaction. Do I miss them? Not really. I've never had them, This is another question I get asked all the time. But one thing I will say, also trust your gut when it comes to being diagnosed with food allergies, because my allergies to chickpeas, lentils, and peas were not diagnosed until this year. Until 2021, but I know I've had them since the 1990s. I'm not joking. So this is how I identify those. My family used to cook like a pea stew, I guess. And every time I'll eat it, my throat will itch so bad. And if I continue to eat, I will get very nauseous and go straight to the toilet to throw up. Oh, not fun at all. And every time that I'll tell my family, hey, like, it makes me nauseous. I don't feel like I can have this. They'll be like, no, you're just speaking, it's all in your head. It wasn't in my head. Like, finally, I got tested this year and it is positive. But I know I've had them since I was little. Same thing with chickpeas with white beans. It's weird because I can have the regular kidney beans and black beans, but then the navy beans, I can't. And also the lentils. Every time that I'll eat them, like my throat will get itchy. So every time that I identified that symptom, I was like, oh, I'm allergic. I didn't need to be tested. I just knew that I was allergic. So I myself rejected those foods. And I did pretty good identifying those. One thing that I would say, it is pretty expensive to test for food allergies. So usually I wait. Whenever I feel like I might have outgrew some of my allergens, that's when I can do it. Or whenever I have collected enough money and evidence that I think I might have developed other allergies, that's when I go ahead and get my test done. Little thing that might help you. If you happen to have an autoimmune disease, in my case, I grew up with eczema. I've had eczema all my life. Having a skin condition like eczema, psoriasis, or even an autoimmune disease like celiac disease, EOE, asthma, can lead to be correlated to having food allergies. Not necessarily all the cases, but if you happen to have those, you might react to food. And when I was growing up, like gosh, I spent 10 months out of the year covering an eczema rash. No one told my mom that it could have easily been avoided by feeding me a top 8 allergen-free diet. We just didn't know, and I suffer a lot. So now I make sure that everyone knows if you have those conditions, check which are the foods that your body doesn't accept and don't eat them. If they make your symptoms get better, then avoid them, you know? One other thing when it comes to food allergies that I've learned is that if you are a guy, the food allergies that you're born with, those are pretty much the ones that are going to stick with you for the rest of the life. For the rest of your life, unless you outgrew them. It is very common for little boys to outgrow their allergies. However, some others might just have them for the rest of the life. When it comes to the girls, we have the worst luck ever, because we happen to be susceptible to develop food allergies every time that we have hormonal change. So, peanuts, legumes, and tree nuts, I've had them since I was little. Shellfish, I had it, I think I developed it when I first got my period. So when I started menstruation at 14, I developed an allergy to shellfish, which is weird if you ask me, because I used to eat shellfish 4 to 5 times a week. I'm not kidding. I ate it so much. I used to love the shrimp cocktails from El Salvador. They were delicious, and I think up to today, it's still one of my favorite foods. I try to veganize it, and I'm like this close to getting it, right? But I developed that allergy when I got my period. And I know that I could also be susceptible to develop food allergies if I go through pregnancy, if I give birth, for example. That could be a major change. Another one will be menopause. That is also another major change that could lead to me developing more food allergies just because I'm a woman. It's frustrating. It's frustrating how it works. It could be prevented, but there's still like research being done on that subject. So I would recommend you to look into it and read a bit. But also, you can develop food allergies if you happen to have any issues with your gut. At 25, I discovered that I had a leaky gut, which led me to develop an allergy to gluten, dairy, eggs, and soy. So on top of the ones that I already had, then I added those onto my mix. Yet, because I've been eating a plant-based diet and I make sure that I take care of my gut properly, I outgrew my soy allergy this year. So now I technically can eat soy. I just have discovered that it's no longer an allergy, but it's an intolerance. So shouldn't be eating soy, you know. But I think this is a great time to switch into food intolerances. Now that we learn a little bit about food allergies. Oh, no. I'm missing one thing. I'm sorry. I'm missing how they get diagnosed. So basically, when it comes to food allergies, you can do 2 tests. Those are the ones that I'm familiar with, but there are more. The one will be your blood test, where they check your IgE levels to see how much you react to the proteins of foods. That's the way that I've been diagnosed to most of them. Also, when you eat them, and if the doctor tells you you're allergic to this, and then you eat it and you start to experiencing the symptoms, then you're like, you know what? Yes, I am allergic. I shouldn't be eating this. But the other one will also be the skin prick test, which I personally think it's my favorite. I just feel like it's more accurate, as your body truly shows you whether it reacts to it or not. So with the skin prick test, this is how it goes. They prick little like dots, I guess, on your arm, on the back of your arm, literally right here. And then they insert a drop of the protein of the allergen you're testing for. Within a matter of 15 minutes, if that little dot grows into a hive or into a little bump, then you know that you are allergic to. Depending on the size of that little bump or hive, that indicates how allergic you are. So for example, if I were to do mine, when it comes to peanuts, it will be like this huge, which means that I happen to be anaphylactic to peanuts. And for that, you need an EpiPen, and those are prescribed, so you have to carry it at all times. I think that we know. So that is how you identify food allergies. So sometimes you have to trust your gut and like see the symptoms that you're experiencing and avoid those. I would recommend to test. As I mentioned, I only tested for peas, lentils, and chickpeas this year because before I didn't have the money to do so. They happen to just be more expensive. It's an extra food that you have to test. Usually when it comes to doctors and the allergies specifically, they are going to test only for the top 8 allergens. Now I feel like they're also testing for sesame, which has been included as the top 9 allergen. But other than that, if you don't ask for other allergens, they're not going to test for those. So in my case, I was like, you know what? I want a full panel. I want banana. Why was I gonna say something else? I want rice, I want sunflower, I want sesame, I want chickpeas, I want lentils, I want peas. So I tested for all of those just to make sure whether I had them or not. And guess what? Turns out positive. I am allergic to most of the foods I suspected except for rice, corn, and soy. Yeah. And then everything else I'm allergic to. Now I think it's a great time to switch into intolerances because I just mentioned the ones that I'm intolerant to. When it comes to intolerances, I feel like we tend to just eat those foods, you know? You don't want to deprive your body from enjoying another food. I get it. However, are the symptoms going to be worth it? This is how I identify that I have an intolerance to corn. Basically, if I eat corn, I get this horrible abdominal pain, and I swear I can't sleep for 3 days. It is just so painful to like lay on my tummy or to lay on my bed. In general, it's just too painful that I'm like, this is not worth it. I don't need to be eating corn to feel this miserable, you know? So I avoid it. This is the reason why I avoid it. I eat small quantities only when I bake it, like in xanthan gum or in baking powder. But other than that, I don't eat corn. And then rice, this is a very interesting one. I had never imagined I would develop an intolerance to rice. Honestly, this one is so new. So back in April, I started to see lots of little bumps here on my forehead and also little bumps and red dots on my chest. And I'm like, this is weird. So I tried everything, natural remedies. Then I even went with topical medicine just because I was in discomfort and I didn't like it anymore. And I'm like, I just don't feel good with myself. I don't feel good in my skin. I want to get rid of this. Turns out that no matter what I tried, those little bumps wouldn't go away. I did so much research on them and nothing was making it go away. So I was like, it has to be an intolerance. Sure enough, it was an intolerance. And it was an intolerance to rice. Because when I was in Turkey, I took advantage of testing for food allergies. Well, not food allergies, food sensitivities. So those are over-the-counter tests. They are very accessible. However, it was way cheaper in Turkey than it would have been here in the States. I paid $125 for a 200 foods panel. And then over here, I would have paid at least $500 for a quarter of those, you know. So I was very glad that I did it over there, and I got to test all of these intolerances. Turns out that everything that I'm allergic to turned out to be an intolerance as well. But the funny thing is that rice showed up. And if it wasn't for that test, I would still be eating rice and I would still have all those little dots on my skin, which I had no idea it was because of rice. As soon as I started to eliminate rice from my diet, it took me like 5 or 6 weeks to see betterment. So I feel like by the second month, my bumps were gone. And I'm like, whoa, it really was rice. So I accidentally ate rice a few days ago and I got like 3 little bumps. So now I'm like, oh, it was rice, you know. So these are really easy to identify, and then the symptoms go away once you detox yourself. So give yourself like 5 weeks the least to see some betterment. And if you don't see any betterment, then that could indicate that you're still consuming something you're intolerant to. So that's how I've discovered that I have food intolerances. I would recommend, if you really have a hard time identifying yours, go ahead and do a food sensitivity panel. They're expensive, but it can be a shortcut. Because honestly, if it wasn't for that, I would have not discovered my rice intolerance. So it does have its benefits, you know, and I'm just really happy on my skin right now. And I was going to mention on that panel that I did, soy turned out to be positive for an intolerance. However, because I just outgrew it, I had to consume it. So I've been keeping a maintenance of it. And as soon as I started consuming soy, all my little bumps came back. So now I have like a few, but they're not bad as it was with rice. But mostly I have like all these red dots on my chest. And I know that it's coming because of soy. So obviously, my body's still adjusting. I'm still intolerant to it. I want to avoid soy. I just can't right now because of the treatment that I'm doing. But as soon as I'm able to avoid it, then that's gone. So my body can like detox itself. Because it needs like at least a good month without soy products for my skin to be like fully healed. Gosh, the problems, right? But that's everything I know about intolerances, as well as, food intolerances, food sensitivities, as well as food allergies. And I really hope this helps you a lot. Honestly, I would recommend you to write a food journal and try to see your symptoms. Like, write your symptoms, try to see what makes you react, what doesn't. One little anecdote I'm going to share with you, and then we're going to close this video, is with rice. So as I mentioned, I had like all these little bumps on my forehead, which means that this is an intolerance. So like bumps on your forehead, like pimples on your forehead, that is an intolerance, as well as the pimples on your chest. That indicates that you're having digestive issues. So basically, that inflammation was caused because of rice, but I thought it was because of bananas, chocolate, and dates. So I avoided those. For like a month, I avoided chocolate and bananas, and it didn't get better. So I was like, you know what? It must be the dates. So the second month, I avoided the 3 of those. And guess what? Symptoms didn't get any better. So I'm like, it has to be something else, but I couldn't identify it. So thank goodness I identified rice. And now, like, I've added like chocolate, dates, and bananas into my diet, and I have no issues. So really, every time that your body shows you signs that are not normal, it is an indication that you might be intolerant or allergic to some foods. And I feel like having an intolerance is pretty common, like everyone has them at this point. But then having food allergies are not as common. Now you know. But yeah, I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. You learned a little bit with me. If you have any questions, leave me those in the comment section below. I love you all so much. Thank you for being here. And I am gonna see you next year. Seriously, I cannot believe the year has finished. I'm going to see you next year with more allergy-friendly recipes. I can't wait to share them with you. So if you don't want to miss any of those, make sure that you subscribe to IPINKIT. All you need to do is click this red button on your screen, hit the bell once if you want to receive a notification every time I upload a video. I love you all so much. Happy holidays. Happy New Year. And I'll see you next week with a brand new video. Bye bye, guys.